speaker is a familiar one. We have Recolia returning for a workshop on an intro to content strategy. Now, this is not the name of the presentation, that's just the name that we have it on our side. You'll see when the presentation starts. And she will go into it. And joining us live, we have Recolia.
Hi. Happy
Hello,
Saturday.
welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, welcome back to the DevFest trip. How are you doing today?
I'm good. It's Saturday. These days, Saturdays or weekends don't have the same hold as it used to. It used to be a time where you could just, relax and sleep in and all of that. And that's not exactly the case, but it's all a part of it.
Here we go. Well, thanks for joining us again for your talk. Can you talk a bit about, you were on, we had you for the spotlight earlier this week, and we're so happy to have you again, bringing us at the end of the afternoon. Can you talk a bit about your motivation, why you made this particular piece of content for this event?
Yeah, it was a must for me because the thing is, people are familiar with the term generally digital marketing, but there's still a lot of unfamiliars with that world. And there are so many subsects that fall under the umbrella of digital marketing, and content marketing in particular is still a relatively new space, especially in Trinidad and Tobago. So I just thought that it would be the best way to sort of introduce what it is and understand, its function and how it can really play a really important role in all the general or businesses' general marketing efforts. So I always say, and that'll come out as well, it's more than just saying I have this to sell for this amount. Like the days of the hard sell are over, and businesses need to do a bit more to connect with their audience. And it's mainly because audiences as well, consumers on the whole, they want more, they're demanding more from the people or the businesses that they're buying from. And that is where content marketing plays that pivotal role. It's that, that connector where marketing is concerned.
Great. So, we're big proponents of education and spreading the awareness. But I wonder, what are some of your tactics you would deal with those who may be skeptical, sorry, right? I know some businesses pretty happy driving around a truck and screaming, no battery buying, scrap iron buying. So how would you give them an elevator pitch into why this is important?
Yeah, well, if we want to use that same example of the truck man, moving around in this and the other, what happens when no one is around when the truck passes by? These days we have so many tools and so many access to so many things that make life not just easier for us on the business end of things, but also can again connect more with your audience. So as opposed to using that truckman as an example, as opposed to him constantly every day, all day, going in and marketing around, hoping that the right person is hopefully at home at that time and is ready to buy, he could have created a bit more of an integrated strategy that would showcase, this is why you need to buy this particular product from me, because the reality is he's not the only truck man going around in the area selling his wares or selling whatever the case, whatever it is that he's providing. Consumers these days are a lot more savvy when it comes to comparing products. They're looking at reviews, they're looking to see what other people are saying about a particular product. And you need to be able to have that differentiator on standby, exactly like this, an elevator pitch. You need to have that differentiator to ensure that you reach the right people at the right time. So I will always say that, especially when you're thinking about what you're trying to highlight and promote and sell, you also have to keep into consideration your audience. And I know that's a very generic term, and everybody says, think about your audience and all of that, but you have to also meet your audience where they are. And continuing on the same path consistently without, and then, frustrated about, well, we're not getting the same returns, it just goes to show like there is a lack of considering your audience. You just want $1 at the end of the day. So if you do want to earn a customer's dollar, you need to create an experience for them that showcases why, you are providing a real value for them.
Yes, I totally agree in that the content that they produce is a way for them to reverse that model, that the customers come to them. Because personally, that traditional model is a pain point for me. I would hear the ice cream man coming around playing the song. But I live in an apartment. I have 4 gigs to get out there on the road. I'm not going to make it on time, unfortunately. So,
It's true.
yeah.
And I know that some people, I'm not trying to say that, traditional marketing is dead. It still has and plays a function. I just think that, there needs to be a bit more. It should be sort of like a complementary strategy overall. So some people actually do like that, in-person experience, and that's great. But before you get to that in-person experience, you want to ensure that by the time they reach you directly, they know, yeah, well, I'm definitely buying from this person because he has X, Y, and Z that is different from vendor 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Great. So without further ado, we're going to get into your presentation now.
All right.
Let's see.
Today's consumers are bombarded with ads and have learned how to tune out, which means, as a business, you need to take a few extra steps to reach your audience in a way that feels authentic to them. Enter content marketing. Content marketing goes beyond, my name is company X and I'm selling product Y for Z dollars. It's more about building a connection with your audience and creating a narrative around your brand that's more authentic, engaging, and tailored for your audience. I personally like to think of it as cyclical. The more valuable content you create, the more you can build a relationship with them that trusts you and looks to you as an industry authority. When your audience trusts you, they're more willing to do business with you and remain loyal. Because you're doing more than just selling a product or service. You're providing additional value that shows how and why you are the solution to their pain points and needs. Consistent, high quality, and engaging content impacts decision-making more than any other technique. Done right, content marketing can make you become a credible, authoritative resource on topics that matter to potential customers. Now, the content in content marketing can be anything from blogs, high-res imagery, videos, tutorials, infographics, podcasts, newsletters, ebooks, and webinars, all of which can demonstrate how your product or service can answer specific questions people have and provide them with something they can't get anywhere else. It's also the best way to turn your product, no matter how common, into something that's not like everyone else's. Okay, so now that we have a better idea of what content marketing is, we can now take a look at how to develop a strategy. The trending phrase of the moment is content is king. And a lot of business owners assume that it's just a matter of posting more to Instagram or jumping on the latest social media challenge. Not exactly. A content strategy is your blueprint and the heart of your marketing efforts that details how and why every piece of content will be created, managed, distributed, and analyzed. As with any plan, a content strategy will also outline objectives for your content, proposed outcomes, and delivery. I always say that you shouldn't be creating content for content's sake. Your entire content strategy exists to help you achieve specific goals for your business. Every decision your team makes about content, from copywriting to design to distribution, will be influenced by these goals. These goals can be used as your quote-unquote North Star in figuring out the type of content that needs to be created that speaks to these goals, as well as creating corresponding KPIs or key performance indicators that help you measure the success of all of your efforts. The key to creating compelling content is knowing exactly who you're trying to connect with and how your content can best serve them. By identifying your audience's demographics and motivators, and this extends to items like knowing what they care about, what problems they need solved, and what will make their lives easier, it then puts you in a better position to understand their unique needs and, by extension, come up with ideas that will really connect with them. You can't really go in any direction if you don't know where you're coming from. This is why a content audit is necessary to assess what previously resonated most with your audience, identify gaps in your topic clusters, and brainstorm fresh content ideas. Looking at your previous top performing and lowest performing content can inform which types you can double down on, what to remove, and what you can do differently going forward. You have to meet your audience where they are. While you may think that you should launch a podcast because it seems as if everyone has one these days, you should first find out if your audience actually listens to podcasts in the first place. It's better practice to create content types that your audience actually consumes. Otherwise, you'll end up wasting time and resources creating content that won't connect with them at all. Your content can only work if it gets in front of the right people. But with so many options, it's hard to know what will help you make the most impact. Once again, this will reflect where your audience spends most of their time. If your audience prefers long-form video content, you can consider publishing to YouTube. If you have a younger audience that likes quick content, TikTok and Instagram might be the best option. If your audience is more B2B, then you may want to focus your efforts on LinkedIn. Now, it's time to start coming up with content ideas to focus on. The best place to start is by doing keyword research with your target audience in mind. You can tap into this based on what they typically search for online. Tools like BuzzSumo, Google Trends, Answer the Public, Ubersuggest, and Keywords Everywhere are gold mines of consumer insight that you can use to create fresh, ultra-useful content because you'll be creating pieces that specifically answers their questions. Publishing consistently is one of the keys to a successful content strategy. So it's important to keep your team on track with an organized editorial calendar, which provides an overview of your content and when it'll be published. No matter how often you decide to publish, using a calendar will ensure that you can budget in the right amount of time and, most importantly, stick to your deadlines. And there you have it. Once you can break down exactly what you're trying to accomplish with your content through your defined goals, who you're creating these pieces for, where you intend to reach them, and your expected outcomes, you're well on your way to building a sound content strategy that will connect with your audience, build your authority, and gain long-term returns. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Great, awesome, and straight to the point. Oh. Let's get this off. So, my first question, which speaks to something that a very important point that I think you made is understanding a business, so understand their audience. How would you go about doing that?
The simplest or the quickest way you can do that is tapping into your existing or paying audience. So, you have your social media followers, you have those who you would have seen visiting your websites and all of that, but you can find some commonalities with those who already purchased from you. That is, at least even if you're a small business or a newish business, that can be the springboard for determining who your audience is. And of course, that can evolve over time as the business grows and expectations, change and all of that. But the people who are already purchasing from you, they're the ones that are telling you what they like, what they don't like. Depending on if you have several products, they are telling you like what tends to resonate the most versus what is the least, what they're least likely to buy. Outside of that, you can do surveys as well. You can use your social media to run surveys. Ask your audience, what do you like? What don't you like? What can we do better? And you can, again, use that as a base to get some insight into what makes them tick. And it takes a lot of the guessing games out of the decisions that you make. We may think we may like to do something, but we are the ones running the business. It has nothing to do with us. It's what we are trying to provide and optimizing what we're trying to provide for an external audience.
Awesome. So I'm trying to understand, how does the interaction with the business with you work as a client of yours? Are there some things that you just advise on, or some things you take full control and you offer as a service? So would you do that market research on their behalf as part of it, or how would it work?
For now, I tend to work with the information that they have. And what I've recognized as well is that these are questions that they haven't really asked themselves, which I think is really it's good because it means that there is room for not just improvement, but there's room for them to grow and understand that these are the things that they need to do if they really want to, again, optimize their brand and what they're trying to sell. At least at this point in time, it hasn't been asked of me. I personally don't do market research. I mostly rely on the insights that I would have gleaned through audits that I do. So I do provide audits, especially like where social media is concerned. One of the things that I do in my onboarding process is I do a social media audit. And that can extend as well to like their content, whether they have a YouTube or they have a website and they have a blog by extension, take a look at their analytics. Ultimately, the whole point of an audit is to see what is the current landscape where their content is. And I also like to take a look at their existing audience. And then I would ask them, based on who they are and all of that, based on who is actually following you and interacting with you, is this your actual audience? Because having a following is different from who you're actually trying to target. And I think understanding that is also very critical, because you may have an existing audience that is not necessarily key audience or your target audience, and you may be missing out on potential opportunities to directly engage with and find your target. And I guess there's where other techniques come in, like boosted posts and all of that, campaigns, whatever the case may be.
Yes, so so I'm interested in that too, more in talking about how that relationship and how these the execution of your services work. So is it that you will work closely with their social media manager, especially when you talk about like the copywriting, you'll give them the plan, you'll give them the content, and they execute. Is that how the dynamic works?
Well, so far it's been me actually handling social media, because outside of content strategy, I also provide social media services as well.
Right.
So the clients that have reached out to me, they would want someone to actually handle their social media in totality, because they don't have time. And I completely understand. As much as I advise and I tell people that you need to be consistent and all of that, when you have other things happening with the business, and especially if you're a small team, it works if you just outsource, if you don't have an internal marketing department. So what I would do is I would actually handle all of their social, which includes the audit, strategy, as well as the editorial calendar, scheduling / posting, and engagement and monthly reports.
Oh, so I was now about to talk about that. So you get full control and you handle an end-to-end service and you report. So you have the analytics there and you're able to apply your techniques and measure and come back to the customer. So I think that's a really powerful service, because they really get that peace of mind. You just really holding it down for them.
Yeah, and something I always tell whether they are actual clients or potential or just inquiring about what I do, I always give people a very real disclaimer. If you are hiring me or anyone who is, worth their salt when it comes to these sort of things, whether social media or, overarching content services, do not expect results instantaneously. These things take time to grow. And I think that has been the downside to the digital age that we're in. We are in a space of instant gratification, and unfortunately, we've had not had we still have a few people out there who claim to get you to 10,000 followers in less than a month, and double your engagement, and all of these really out there promises. But if they really knew what they were doing, they would understand that, again, it takes time to grow an audience. It takes time to build engagement. It takes time to ultimately see the results of whatever it is you're trying to achieve. Just as with anything else, if you were doing engaging in traditional marketing or just general brand building outside of digital, these things, don't happen overnight. When you think about things like SEO, if I were to outline a content strategy that involves, blogging and on-site SEO for the next 6 months, you're not going to see those returns almost immediately, because it takes time, for your site to start ranking. Of course, once you do everything right, you will see the returns. But I always say that these things are an investment. If you want to get something, quick and easy, you go and you buy a Coke. It's not the same thing. It's just these things are an investment, and it takes time, but you do see the returns when you have people, not just myself, but other people who are in my niche and my industry. Once you're hiring people who know what they're doing and are trying to stay up to date with industry trends and all of that. So yeah.
That's interesting and very informative. So I'm wondering, I guess that poses a very interesting challenge, because of course you will have your own fees of your service, and then when you talk about things like so
you're breaking up a bit. Can you repeat?
Yeah. Let's wait to see if I think I am back.
I think you did now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes technology, it's just not having it.
Yeah, it's a tech conference, so we know, we know how it goes. Yeah. So I was just wondering, that challenge, your clients may be skeptical. It cannot be a quick win. It's a long-term investment, and you also have the additional charge accrued to them when it comes to investing into boosting ads. So some of their revenue needs to also go into the platform, which you would have to optimize. So I'm wondering, how do you buy over skeptical clients when you realize that they need to boost the ad, they need to actually put funds into these features?
Right. So far, I haven't had too much of a challenge where that is concerned, because I think that most people or business owners recognize now that it's a sort of pay to play game that we're in when it comes to social and digital marketing on a whole. Where the issue lies, though, is that they would take a more of a blanket approach. So I've seen previously where, when I look at the past ads that they would have run, or past boosts that they would have run, their audience would have been, let's say, 17 to 55 or 65, and all of Trinidad and Tobago. So it comes back to the notion where, when you ask people, who are you targeting, they would say, well, I want everybody to buy from me. And the reality is, your product or service is not for everyone. If you want to use an example, if you want to look at between like KFC and Royal Castle, KFC is not for everyone. As much as you may have a lot of chicken lovers out there, or fried chicken lovers, not everyone is going to eat KFC. Some people may prefer Royal Castle. I personally prefer Royal Castle. But more than that, you also have to think about people who have health concerns, people who are, who are vegetarian or vegan, and all of that. So when you think about the nuances of human beings, because at the end of the day, you're selling to human beings, you cannot say that everyone is your audience. And again,
Right.
this is where understanding who your audience is comes into play, and why when I do my social media audits, I make sure I ask clients, to work with me to be as clear as possible as to who their audiences are, because that works for me later down when I have to start creating audiences to start boosting posts. I'm not going to boost a post or create an ad campaign for everyone in Trinidad and Tobago, because not everyone in Trinidad and Tobago is going to buy or be interested. And beyond that, something I don't think a lot of people know is that when it comes to ads, Facebook, Instagram, if you're just browsing online, you have the opportunity now to switch off ads, especially if it's not relevant to you. I do it all the time. There's so many times I see random ads show up in my timeline and my feed. I'm like, this has nothing to do with me. So the next thing too is you want to make sure that you are boosting and creating messages that go to the right people, because if more and more people are switching off your ads, not only does it mean that you are not connecting with the right people, but it also means that you're not going to show up as a nuisance for them. I've done it already where I've switched off ads, not just that particular ad, but I've turned on notifications where I do not see any ads going forward from that particular company, because I find that they are, almost spam-like. So even with creating ads and boosting posts, because there is a difference between the two, we have to be very careful about who we are trying to communicate with, because we don't want to turn people off. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point. The whole idea of possibly being blacklisted because you're trying to appeal to everyone, and that's something arguably no one likes.
Yeah.
So, the importance of finding that target audience and finding your niche, and I think it'll also help you develop your business, because you're gonna know, the more you scope down, the more specific you are. You know what your business can be. You know how to evolve your identity. You
Yeah.
have this sort of a guide. Well,
And the
Victoria,
reality sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say the reality is, because organic reach is dead, even if people follow you, not everyone is going to see a post when you post it. So having those boosted posts and those ad campaigns, again, can help, when you have something running, like, oh, I haven't seen something from Nicholas, and this is what he has going on right now. Let me find out more.
Great. I really enjoyed both your talks and your sessions and the Q&A. Thanks again for being part of the event.
Thank you for having me.
Sorry?
Thank you for having me. This was amazing.
Of course, you're welcome. So you have any final thoughts you'd like to share with our viewers?
I would definitely say, if you have, whoever's watching right now, if you have a business and you're thinking about what you can do differently, definitely consider the kind of conversations you're currently having with your audience and your potential audience. And, remember that's human beings that you're trying to sell to. So try and think about what your product or service, what kind of value that it can add for them, and play up on that as much as possible, and use, the multitude of tools and the multitude of content platforms we have out there to tell that story of your why and how you can help solve their problem.